Alright, let's talk about multiple choice answers. So we haven't dealt with too many of these. Looks like it got cut off a little bit. This is A, and this is B. And we want to find the graph that is for secant of theta. Okay? So that's what we want to figure out, which one of these. Well, first we need to know that secant is the U-shaped graphs. So we know that it can't be C. And we know that it can't be D, because D looks like it might be cotangent, and C looks like it's probably a tangent. Okay, so this is probably a tangent, and this is probably a cotangent. Okay, so we're looking at A and B. And A could be 1, and so could B. So we need to figure out what 4 secant does to the graph. Well, the 4 right here, does a vertical stretch of 4. Okay? And if you notice on this one, this has a vertical stretch of 4. Well, how do I know that? Okay, well, we can count the values between the max and the min and then divide it by 2. So this point is at 4, and this one is at negative 4. So that's going to be 8. And that's a distance of 8 from here to here, right? And we know the 8 divided by 2 must be 4, so I must have an amplitude of 4. The same goes for B. So now I need to go, okay, what's the shape? Well, secant down here on the bottom isn't changing. It's not shifting to the left. It's not shifting to the right. So it should look just like a cosine graph. And I know that cosine actually starts at the above the origin, while sine starts at the origin. Okay, so if you notice this one right here looks like it's below the origin. Okay, so we're going to connect these dots to see what shape this would make. Okay, so it looks like this one is making a shape like that. So it could be a secant graph, but cosine usually doesn't start down here, not unless it was negative cosine, which we really haven't done together. And if you notice on this one, if I kind of connect the dots. Oops, that one wasn't really good at connecting the dot, was it? That it does look more like the shape of cosine. Now, yes, I know this one for A, it looks like our general shape that we always draw. But you have to remember that a period of cosine goes from 0, which is here, to 2 pi, which is over here. So technically, if I was drawing this for the 0, it would start here, and then it would go down right here at pi over 2. Then at pi would be underneath, and then it would come back up at this point. That's what the shape is generally looking like. So this answer has to be B. That's the only graph that seems to fit. Alright, let's do another example. This time, we're going to look at the tangent graph. So let's figure out which one of these is equal to tangent of x over 3. Okay, now, of course, these values aren't really listed as well as they could have, but it should be pretty obvious that if this is 6 pi right here, and this, sorry, negative 6 pi, and that's 6 pi, then every one of these tick marks must be pi. 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, 6 pi. Okay? And so we just need to figure out which one of these matches tangent of x over 3. Well, let's go ahead and figure out how the tangent of x over 3 is going to affect my start and my end point. Because we know that that should be where the vertical asymptotes are. So let's do a little bit quick math. And this is all assuming, I'm doing these problems assuming that you don't have a graphing calculator. Otherwise it would be really easy to just, plug this. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. Alright, so we're doing tangent of x over 3. So we know that x over 3 must be set equal to negative pi over 2. So we multiply the both sides by 3. It's supposed to be a 3. We get x equals negative 3 pi over 2. Okay? And then if we do the end point, we get x over 3 equals pi over 2, multiply by the 3 on both sides, and you get that your end is going to be positive 3 pi over 2. Alright, well what's nice about this is that this means that my middle is going to be at 0. Okay? And actually I think this is one from your quiz. Okay, and we multiply by 1/2, I still get 0. Alright, so this is what we're looking like. We have a negative 3 pi over 2 here, and a positive 3 pi over 2 here. And the middle at 0, okay, at my x-axis, I have a tangent graph going through that. And I know that I shouldn't have anything here or there. So I need to look for all the graphs that go through the origin looking like that. So let's go back to our multiple choice. So this one, C, goes through the origin, but it looks like that one might be a cotangent graph. So we're not sure. This one goes through the origin, so it could be D, so maybe D. For A doesn't go through the origin, so it's not A. So we're stuck between B and D. Okay? Alright, well, let's look at what the next period is. Okay? And then I'll show you how to do it visually. If I do the next point, because we're adding 3/2 each time, we'll have 3/2 plus 3, we're adding 3, so my next period, I'll show you what it would be. Negative 3 pi over 2, 0, 3 pi over 2, 6 pi over 2. Okay, so my next point should be at 3 pi. So on the third tick mark, I should have a tangent graph going through it. So let's go back to the multiple choice and see what that looks like. Alright, so here's 1, 2, 3. Alright, 1, 2, 3. Alright, so this one does. 1, 2, 3. And so is this one. But here's the kicker. I should only have one at the origin and one at the third mark. D has one at the origin, at the first mark, at the second mark, at the third mark. So you know that just, this one has too many. So there's too many. So it has to be B by default because I only have one shape here and one shape there. Alright? Alright, how would you check this on the graphing calculator? Alright, well let's say that we are trying to match up tangent only with the graphing calculator. So the first thing you would want to do is actually put this in your graphing calculator. Oop, I forgot to divide by 3. Okay, so you need to click on the y equals key. And of course make sure your mode is in radians, otherwise it won't graph. Okay. So we have tangent of our x divided by our 3. Okay? And you should see this once you get it in the window. Okay? Now what we want to do is we actually want to modify our window to match what we have for the multiple choice question. So your window should look like this. It's a basic one. Okay? It's an x-min as an x-min of negative 10, and it has x-max of 10. So those are the two that we're going to change first. Okay? So if you go back and you look at the question, you remember that I said that the left side is negative 6 pi and that the right side was a positive 6 pi. So we're going to change our x-min to the negative 6 pi and our x-max to the positive 6 pi. Okay? So go ahead and do that now. Okay? And if you notice that as soon as you press the down key after putting in the negative 6 pi, that it automatically changes it to a decimal. That's okay. So I went ahead and took a picture of me putting in the 6 pi for the max. But as soon as I press the down arrow, you're going to see that that is going to change to a positive 18.8495, etc., etc. Okay? Now, the next thing that we need to change is our x scaling. Okay? Now, if you remember, I said that it was labeled it as negative 6 pi and 6 pi, right? And that every single tick mark was representing 1 pi. So we need to change the scaling to pi. So go ahead and do that now. So if you notice that as soon as you press down on your cursor, I know it's going to change pi into a decimal, but oh, I put it in the wrong spot. So hold on a second, let me make that correction. Yeah, sorry about that, I went too far apparently. Okay, so now if you notice the x scaling, okay? The x scaling actually has pi. Okay? So right here, this is where it looks like it has pi. Now, like I said, if you press down, I know it's now 3.1415926, etc. But I just wanted you to see that I'm plugging in the pi. Okay. So what this does is this is going to change our graph to start at, on the left side is going to go to negative 6 pi. And on the right side is going to end at the 6 pi. And then every tick mark is going to be at pi, just like it did for our multiple choice question. Now, for our y values, it didn't really change. Okay, our y-axis was still at negative 10, and it was still a maximum value of positive 10, and every tick mark was still 1. So we don't need to mess with our x values at all. So just leave those alone. All right, let's go ahead and hit the graphing key, and let's see what our graph looks like. So if you notice, on my calculator, it doesn't know how to draw the vertical asymptotes. So it puts it in and kind of freaks out with these lines. And that's all that those are representing, are vertical asymptotes. And you might have an updated calculator that won't put those in there at all, and you'll just see the shape of the tangent lines. But if you notice on here that this picture is really easy to match up with our multiple choice picture. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that multiple choice picture back up so that we can compare the two. Okay, so here is our multiple choice answer, and if we look at our tangent graph to compare the two, you're going to see that the two graphs kind of match up. Now it's a little bit harder because it won't let me size this, but just look at B and look at the picture here. Okay, so if you notice, right here goes through the origin, and right here goes through the origin, right? And then my next mark, when you go 1, 2, 3, look over here, 1, 2, 3. There's my next point, right? And then look, you see half the graph here, there's half the graph here. And if you look on the other side, here's the other graph at 1, 2, negative 3. So at 1, 2, negative 3. Okay, there's the graph. So it matches up. So if you have a graphic calculator for the test, you're going to be in luck because all you need to do is modify your window and you can match it up perfectly with the correct answer choice. Good luck, you guys.